Well, it's been a little while since I've been on, so I want to apologize to everybody that's going to jump in tonight that I've been away for a little bit. And yes, I'm still sick. I'm not feeling the greatest. The flu has hit the house, and we're going to be recovering so that we can get ready and be ready to go for this Sunday night's game at 8 p.m. at Ford Field. We will be there no matter if we get 2 feet of snow, 4 feet of snow. It does not matter. We will be there. So welcome to everybody who's just now popping in. I see a few people just joined. Tonight's show is not going to be an extremely long show. We plan on going about 2 hours tomorrow and try to save what energy I have left. I've been knocked down kind of all week. So first couple of questions that I wanted to get to tonight was Jerry Jacobs headed to IR. And this is just a simple one. Lions are going to make room. Jerry Jacobs is not recovering as quickly from his hamstring issue, from what I understand, as the Lions wanted him to, and they need to make room. So Jerry Jacobs is going to head to IR. He will still be a part of this team moving forward, at least for the balance of the season. But he will be done for the season. There's no way that Jerry Jacobs is going to be able to come back and rejoin the Lions. That's the latest news around 6 p.m. James Houston, full practice today. Like I had spoke about weeks and weeks and weeks ago, there was no way that James Houston was going to play in the regular season. It was highly doubtful that he was even going to come back at all. I know that there's been some others out there that have reported differently, but the news has always been that James Houston was, to use Sam Laporta's recent terminology, an outside opportunity at playing again this season. But all signs are pointing to James Houston getting a crack at it on Sunday. We'll find out more on Friday. And then Sam Laporta. I have some big news on Sam Laporta. And it's not going to be what everyone else is reporting right now. I've seen a few things pop out, but I'm going to do it in video format. I apologize to everyone that's jumping in tonight. That wasn't on the list tonight, but I just got the news maybe 40 minutes ago, and I didn't want to do a video before a live. So I'm going to do the video after this. It'll drop tonight. I'll let everyone else put all their stuff out first. Let's just keep it that way, because mine's going to be totally different. But why are we here tonight? I didn't plan this live. It was last minute to do it, and I wanted to do it because there's something that we need to talk about. There's been some great conversations happening all week long. And this is something that I wanted to talk about, because what the Lions had to do to get to where they are right now is not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy for any team that has a loaded roster. And for what the Lions did, I want to talk about it, because I want to paint the picture to everybody that this team is here to stay for the long haul. And the reason why is because what they've done since 2021 when they started. So what's up, Lauren McQuaig? Nice to see you tonight. Gajan Desage. And Gajan, I say Gajan, but I think it's John Desage. Casey and Lauren again. Yes. So Lauren says Laporta did an LP today. He's in the Detroit Lions interview. Looks promising. I do have some incredible news on Laporta. It is different and above what you guys are seeing. But if I tell you, and then I do a video about it, I'll kind of double dip. I should have just broke it when I was told about it. But I do have a source that called me earlier today and gave me some information. So, all right, here we go. Tonight's topic is what the Lions had to do to get here. And look, this is a question that really needs to be talked about and needs to be answered in a way that sets the stage for the new fans, the old fans, the bandwagon fans, the OG fans, the diehard fans, the loyal members, you name it. And this question is, how did the Lions get to this point to not only make the playoffs, but to host a home playoff game after going 3-13-1 under this new regime in 2021, 9-8 in 2022, and 13-4 in 2023. Oh, wait, scratch that. Sorry. Flag on the play. That's 12-5 in 2023. My apologies. The Lions finished the regular season 12-5 in 2023, and they're taking on the Rams to open up their playoff run as the NFC North champs. So it's incredible that they've made such a turnaround. You guys have heard me time and time again talk about how they're a half a season ahead, and they still are. And you guys should be very excited about that, because what's going to happen next season is going to blow the doors off what's happened this season. Now, our schedule doesn't look that promising. It is a very difficult schedule, but I believe in these Lions. I believe in what they've been able to do this season is setting the stage for what they can accomplish season after season. So here's my answer to this wonderful question that was posed to me. And what I would say is that there's multiple pieces to this. It's a puzzle, and I want to touch on a few elements of this puzzle. And I'm sure the wonderful people in the chat are going to continue to throw great things at me, and we'll talk about some of that too. So let me just start with that. Stanley Miller says, let's go Lions. Bill Collier says, what's up? Looks really promising. Casey, they needed to bite a kneecap with one ass cheek, 3 toes, and focus on fury. There you go. Stanley Miner says, I believe in them too. It's incredible. The fans, and I don't know what kind of fan you guys are. Like, I don't know if you've been there since day one. I don't know. I know one of you that's only been around for about 18 months, but I don't know if you guys have always been there, if you've been SOL and you finally dug out of that hole, or what the case is. But let me paint this picture for you, because the first piece of this puzzle, it began and it started with having a competent owner that wants nothing more than to build this thing the right way. Sheila Hamp Ford brought in a man that she trusted, someone that she knew, and his name was Chris Spielman. Together, they strategized, they laid out this plan, they had envisioned what this brand new Detroit Lions was going to look like. But not just now, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 5, year 7, and extrapolate this thing out and how they're going to develop a plan that's going to fit this mold, and how can they get there quick enough to give the fans something to be proud about. Well, they knew that there was going to be some rough roads ahead, especially at the outset. But they ultimately knew that all of those roads traveled would lead back to the same place. And that, my friends, is that's Detroit versus everybody. And all roads will go through Detroit at some point very soon. And now they are. And we're seeing that in our first playoff home game at Ford Field. So the big emphasis on this is the ownership. Now, the Lions have always had great ownership. The Ford family has been incredible. A lot of us haven't agreed always with how they did things, or how William Clay was more of a player's owner and wouldn't let go, or maybe hung on to coaches just a little bit too long. But then that kind of flipped, right? I mean, after William Clay, it was like, well, we couldn't hold on to coaches long enough. And some we couldn't get out quick enough. But we learn, and we learn as we age, and they learn through this process. And Sheila Hamp had this vision because she is a tough competitor. She has a tough spirit. She's an incredibly intelligent woman. She is Ivy League trained. She played tennis in a place where there wasn't supposed to be tennis for women. I don't know if you guys ever saw that video of her interview, but it was pretty incredible. If I find a link, I'll post it in the description. So the first puzzle is it's Sheila and what she's been able to do, and how she's been able to build an amazing advisory committee around her, and people that she trusts, and people that she knows, people that love football. But more importantly, it's people that love the city of Detroit, because that's what it's all about. It's about Detroiters. It's about this city that has been begging and begging and begging for a winner for a very long time. I don't care about like the basketball, the hockey, the baseball, and all of the amazing seasons that they have given us, because there's always been one thing that's remained true, and that's that Detroit is a football town. We may not have all of the banners and the championships and everything to go along with it, but you look at how we support this football team comparably to how we support the baseball team and the basketball team, with the Pistons and the Tigers, it's not even close. Now, the Red Wings, they were the hottest thing for like 26 years straight or something. You couldn't get a seat if you wanted one. But all that's gone away. It's not the same Detroit, and that's why it's time for Lions football to do its thing. And we're doing it. Let me see what the chat has to say. Kevin Williams says, "Hey, Will, I've always been there, and it's been all of my life, several decades, and it's good to see them blossoming." Sports Talk with Rob says, "What's up, Will?" Hey, man, how you doing, Rob? Jean Desage says, "Been a fan for 30 years. Nice to see the team being built from within." Walt Marks says, 76. Been a fan since 5 years old. Suffered, seen a lot of people saying, we won't win, but they are wrong. We will survive. Southwest Lion 16 says, we wouldn't be where we are without Sheila. Walt Marks says, Sheila is fantastic, far better than her dad. Great choices being made. And then Chris Mason says, Detroit football, number 1, Red Wings, number 1, Detroit Tigers, number 2, Pistons, 100. I'm right there with you. So it's good to see we've got some legends in the house, man. I mean, there's some legends in the chat right here that have been around for a very long time. I'm, 22 years into season tickets, and funny but not funny story is my father, when the tickets started with my grandfather, it was like 60 plus years ago. And there was a change made at some point, and apparently we have lost some of our longevity as a season ticket holder, or seniority, if you will, because something had happened. But tickets in my family date back to the beginning. My grandfather was in the Detroit area just after World War II, and it was shortly after that he started going to games and buying tickets. So we've got a long family history. A lot of my family that lived in that area have a storied history with Detroit sports. So the second point to this, and this is no secret, everybody knows this one, and everyone knew the first one too. It's just, I've seen a lot of narratives this week, and I see a lot of negativity too. And I don't like the negativity. I really don't. I mean, some days, I have a bad day. There's a lot of stuff going on. We just have to talk about it. It's what we do. But the second part of this is finding the right coaches and the right leadership to lead this team. Not only the right way, but to find the right mindset to build your team. And Sheila Hamp and this advisory board that she put together, they found that. And they found it through Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. And the first one I'm going to touch on is Dan Campbell, because it's the longest part of this. And I wrote all this, by the way. Everything I do, I write before the shows. Sometimes you'll see me talking and reading at the same time. Sometimes off the cuff, it's truly off the cuff. I didn't prepare a darn thing. We're just going to talk about it. But this I had to write because I wanted to make sure I got the majority of it right, because I can't remember all of it. But there's just a lot of things to Dan Campbell that are so appealing to every team in the NFL. He is going to be a hard coach to keep. I feel that way legitimately, but at the same time, he is so perfect for Detroit. And I just don't see him going anywhere else. Could you imagine if we lost Dan Campbell? I don't think anyone's had that conversation yet. We've had the conversations about, the coordinators. But could you imagine losing Dan Campbell right now? I don't even want to think about it. All right, so here we go. Campbell is the kind of coach that can relate well to his players because he was a former player himself. And he grasps, the entire process. He understands these guys at their core. And the players respond to him well because he's been in their shoes, right? I mean, Dan, he respects these guys. He respects the players for the job that they have to do and the effort that they have to put in each and every day, and how they have to maintain their bodies and their eating programs. And the strength training, you name it. There is so much these guys are involved in now just to be able to play a game that we like to sit down and get fat and watch on Sundays. They do a ton. And that's why they get paid the big bucks to do what they do. But Dan Campbell also has a sensitive side. And I think a lot of us have seen that. We've witnessed it. in some of his press conferences. He'll shed a tear. He's not afraid to cry. And he's not afraid to show his emotion, not only to the world, but let alone to his players. And showing that realness and that softer side, it's very tough to do for any man. But to be real in front of a room full of testosterone junkies, that's something special. It's something you don't always see. I don't know if I've ever seen Bill Belichick cry. I don't think I have. And he has a lot of things that he should cry over because he's done so many great things in his life. So the picture that I'm trying to paint here is it's a really rare quality to have somebody like Dan who is all testosterone. I mean, he's a man's man of a man. I mean, he's all grit all the time. But he has this side to him that is so relatable to everybody that's really what helps him to become a very powerful motivator. And these guys genuinely look up to him. But Dan's pedigree is also as solid as it comes. He's tough. He's no nonsense. He's a fierce competitor. But he really embodies, a high football acumen. He has a high football intelligence. He knows a lot about the game. His time, in the league that he had spent as a player, he learned a lot under Bill Parcells. And when he learned a lot the Parcells way, that benefited him later in life as a coach. I mean, we know Bill Parcells. I mean, he was an iconic, legendary story during what is considered many of the best years of the Super Bowl era between 1980 and 2010. Long time in the NFL. And Dan Campbell got to be part of that. And Dan really found his love for Detroit playing under Rod Marinelli. He had his best season as a player in 2006 for the Detroit Lions, and then he retired a couple years later around 2009. So he had a short career in Detroit, riddled with injury, but that's where he learned to love Detroit, was in that first season. And to quote Dan Campbell, this is what he said. He said, the first game out of the gate in 2006, we played Seattle here, and this place is like, whoa, I was blown away. It was packed out. It was loud. We couldn't hear on the sidelines as the home team. By the way, we can't do that this weekend. You could feel that this place is just this dormant volcano just waiting to erupt. It's been simmering for years and years and years, and you wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be a part of something that you felt like you were one of the reasons you had success, got over the hump, and turned it into a winner. I'll tell you what, man, he's a part of it. He's the reason for it, and he's doing it. That's our coach right there. That's the guy that's leading our team out there every single game. He wanted to be part of this. He's all Detroit. And that's why he fits. And that's why this team is going places. And that's why we went from 3-13-1 to 12-5, scratch it out 13-4. Dan Campbell got into coaching just a year later after he retired from football. He was a coaching intern at Miami in 2010, and then he kind of moved up through the ranks through position coaching jobs through 2011 and 15. Then he was the interim head coach in 2015. And then he was the assistant head coach in New Orleans under Sean Payton, another legend of this NFL. And that was from 2016 to 2020. And then he accepted his head coaching position in Detroit ahead of the 2021 season, and nothing in Detroit has been the same since. Dan is all about the challenge, the work ethic, being your best you, making sure that you understand what he expects both, on and off the field as a player, as a person, and as a Detroit Lion for the Lions organization. Most importantly, he has that fire inside that dates back to the first game in 2006. He knows what Detroit is all about and how badly this city, its people, the fans, the teams, the businesses, that they deserve and want a winner. It's that passion. It's that fire and that, is bred this authentic culture and identity that he's building in Detroit. Brad Holmes has some play in it too, but this is mostly Dan Campbell's, authentic culture, just like I said. But he's building this in Detroit that matches just who he was as a player and as a team, and as a teammate. Dan was and is respected. He's tough. He's gritty. He's hard-nosed. He's physical. He's talented. And he works for every damn inch of field that he ever took. And every single ounce of respect that he has received from his teammates, his peers, his coaches, nothing was ever given. He's earned all of it. And I feel like that's why a lot of what Dan, communicates to his players, and us through the press conferences is, they've got to earn it. We've got to work for it. And then after the game, that's 5. You guys earned that. Everything Dan does is it's just so natural. And that's what makes a very good coach in this league. And it's even more than just a coach. I mean, he's just a hell of a person. Once I finish the Dan thing, I'll jump into the chat. Dan may not have been a blue chip athlete, but you wouldn't have known that during practice or in the game or in the film room. He outworked and outsmarted you because he didn't have all of the athletic gifts to beat you on the field. So he found a way to win by finding your weaknesses. And now these brand new Detroit Lions, they've bought into this. They are finding themselves more and more each week. And more importantly, they are finding a way to win. I don't think it's any surprise or secret that what we're seeing from these guys on the field matches the identity of their coach. And what you saw on the field from the Matt Patricia era matched the identity of their coach. You had crap for a coach. You had crap for a product on the field. Now we have probably the best coach best young coach in the NFL. And by young, I mean best young head coach in the NFL. And this team is doing everything they can to win because of him. They are finding ways to win because he's teaching them how to do that. Our guys don't have all of the best traits. They are not all elite athletes. They are phenomenal athletes. I mean, every single one of them is a great athlete. So I'm not trying to underplay it here. But there's a difference between an elite brand and a good brand and an okay brand. I think we can all agree on that. There's a $300 cologne, there's a $100 cologne, and there's a $10 cologne, right? So we're getting sometimes a $10 cologne, like Derek says, from the dollar stores and, the bargain basement. And they're going out on the field and they're playing like that $300 smell good. I know it's a terrible analogy. I couldn't think of anything else. But I think you get what I'm saying. It's sometimes, Dan is able to turn these guys into something they're not. And the majority of that is what I believe to be based on the mental part of the game. I was always told at a young age, in the system that I grew up in, playing sports, that 90% of what I was going to do that day was based on my head. The 10% was based on my physical gifts and the muscle memory that I had developed through practice. And I believe that to be true. If you are not mentally in the game, you're going to play terribly. But if you can affect somebody mentally, like Dan is, he's elevating these guys beyond their ability as an athlete by playing smart, by playing clean and determined, and playing sound football. It's a quality that you don't see very often in a person or a coach. And to quote Dominic Raiola, who I always respected as an amazing player for the Detroit Lions, one of the most consistent players for the Detroit Lions. He said, you can see why they are winning and have success. And the players believe in it the way that they are playing. He said when Mike Martz brought Dan in, he was smart, he was physical, he loved the weight room, but he was a competitor. He was one of those dudes where you didn't want to mess with him. So this is somebody that is talking about Dan Campbell now from the way that he used to be, and just said exactly what I kind of said throughout this speech tonight is Dan has really had an impact on these guys positively. And it's really starting to show. So, if you want to call it David versus Goliath, if you could believe in that for this Sunday, I don't believe in that scenario. I don't think that the Rams are a better team than the Lions. And we'll talk about that for 2 hours tomorrow night. But I feel that these Lions can beat anybody. I really do. If they're healthy and they stack up any single day against any other team in the NFL, yeah, they may have lost to them once already this season, but I think right now they can beat anybody. You let this team get hot in the playoffs, I think that we can ride it a pretty long way. Whether that's the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl, I don't see why both of those couldn't be on the table if a few things go right with the Packers this weekend and the Cowboys. So, all right, let me jump into the chat, and then I got one more piece I want to talk about, and then we're going to gear up for tomorrow night. 2 hours tomorrow night. Derek will be on. I don't know if he'll be on all 2 hours, but I've prepared a ton. But I'm also going to open it up for a long time tomorrow. We're going to open up the phone lines because I want to hear from you guys. I mean, this is the first time that, many of us have witnessed a playoff game like this, of this magnitude. And I think it's time that, you guys get your say in and get it out there. So it's out there forever. So I'm going to start at the bottom. Stanley Miner says the Lions will beat anyone we play. Chris Mason says, Coach Campbell, tougher than your coach. I like that slogan. That's cute, man. Joseph Austin says, Coach Campbell, more than a meathead, 1,000%. I think people doubted him. That's all they saw was this meathead. And I feel like they doubted him. And that was a bad choice. William Eaton says, this is only the beginning. Goff deserves all the love and accolades he can get. Well earned from all of our beloved Lions. Walt Mark says the Lions are so good. My wife hates football and is now a Lions fan and watches. That's awesome, man. Now you guys have something else to do together, right? Chris Mason says, I really want to see more trolling by Dan Campbell. He was so fun. He first came out with that Indy 500 race car helmet, and then seeing how he was watching the wave, he needs more of that. That's crazy. That's fun. I didn't see that, but that's crazy. John Desage says, weird because Sheila did things different. Hired a coach before a GM. She's done everything different. She's wired differently. And I feel like it's paying off in big dividends. Sports Talk with Rob says, do you think Ben Johnson goes to Seattle? Can I answer that one tomorrow, Rob? I know you'll be on tomorrow. At least I hope you will. I haven't given much thought because there's a whole bunch of jobs. I've been up since like 3:30 this morning, and I started seeing jobs opening up that early. It seemed like Adam Schefter was already posting stuff, and I couldn't believe there's like 7 head coaching positions that opened up. There are too many options for these guys. I think there's a great possibility we lose Ben Johnson. I'm not going to be excited about it, but I think there's even a great possibility we're losing Aaron Glenn, and that one I'm not so worried about. But I want to speak more to that tomorrow. It's on the list. Here's my quick answer. I think that Seattle is a very unique opportunity. Let's just leave it at that. I think it's a place that coaches want to go. All right, so my third piece, and thank you, Rob. I see your message, man. Appreciate you. My third piece is, of course, Brad Holmes, the magician, the chess master, whatever you want to call him. This guy, he has systematically, broke this team down, compartmentalized it, separated it, whatever you want to call it, and began working on a plan that him and Dan Campbell and Sheila and Rod Wood, and I feel there's a few other players, Mike Disner, I think might have been part of that meeting. And they wrote out this plan. And I think the way that Brad Holmes describes it is they kind of put it on it was like a scratch piece of paper or something. And he still has it. But they put together this plan and he had no money, huge deficit, right? And literally had the worst roster in the game besides Matt Stafford on the team. It was that first major move that started the clock on whether Brad Holmes was going to fix things or he was going to make them way worse. And just so we're on the same page here, I pulled up this stat a minute ago. In 2021, the Detroit Lions had $67 million in dead cap. And people wonder why we went 3-13-1. And people wonder why we haven't been able to do some of the things that other teams are doing when they're this good and they just need a few extra players to really make that deep run. You don't need to wonder when you go back and look at the facts of we're just now getting to a level playing field. Like this is the first time ever in my lifetime that I can ever remember, when I was old enough to know what any of this meant, that the Lions in 2024 are starting with hardly any dead cap at all and almost 100%, salary cap. So I just wanted to point that out. Brad Holmes as a GM has to worry about all of that stuff. And he took over a team that had $67 million in dead cap. So almost half the cap was dead. And then the other half was already attributed, to the team. And on that team, your quarterback was making a ton of money. So this first move, we honestly had no idea what was about to happen that early in the process. But then the phone rang and Matthew Stafford was on his way to becoming a Ram. And that's also why when I say we are a half a season ahead of ourselves, this is why. Because now we're finally getting into our fourth draft, finally have all the money in the world, great financial picture, more guys signed to start 2024 than any other season before. I think we're at 39 now. Other teams, other years, we are starting off with like 25, 23, 29. That's a big difference. So here we go. Matt Stafford's on his way to LA. In 2021, the Rams traded Goff, a 2021 third-round pick, number 101 overall, a 2022 first-round pick, number 32 overall, and a 2023 first-round selection, number 6 overall to Detroit in exchange for Matt Stafford. The internet blew up. Nobody knew what was going on. Everybody couldn't believe it. Well, a lot of people felt like, what are you doing? Like, this is the only, who the hell's Jared Goff? Like, come on, you're really bringing this guy in? I mean, that was the sentiment by Lions fans. They had no faith. They already were throwing Brad Holmes under the bus. They couldn't believe that Jared Goff was coming to Detroit. We're never going to win anything. Here we go again. I was cool as a cucumber. I'm like, this is great. Like, we're getting some draft picks, couple firsts. This is different. This is what we needed. Now I know I don't have much receipts because I just started this a year ago, but I can promise you I was excited. So 2021 draft selections. This is what we've turned out with. And this is why it's different. This is why it's working. We got a Fetu Melifonwu in 2021. Now he's kind of taken a little bit of a sideline to his career because he was injured quite a bit. He finally gets healthy, and this season he starts to break out now in the last half of the season. Holmes traded the Rams 2022 first round pick, the number 32 overall, their own 2022 draft picks, number 34 and 66, to Minnesota for the huge draft day bombshell for number 12 and number 46. They used number 12 to draft Jamison Williams, and they used number 46 to draft Josh Paschal. So far, those two picks really haven't worked out the greatest. Williams had to come back from his ACL, got suspended. It's taken a slower route to finally doing a few good things the last 4 or 5 games. He's well on his way to developing, and I think that 2024 is going to be a big breakout year for that kid. Josh, and he might even break out in the playoffs. Josh Paschal, same thing. Coming through injury, had a slow process. I think that 2024 is a bounce back year for him. He has to have a great season next year for that pick to make sense. Holmes also traded away the Rams' first round pick in 2023, which was number 6 overall. He then sent that pick and number 81 to Arizona in exchange for number 12, 34, and 168. And this is where Brad Holmes finally really hit it big. His selection at number 12 was a slam dunk. Jahmyr Gibbs. Everybody crucified him. Couldn't believe that he was taking a running back at 12. And clearly, Jahmyr Gibbs, one of the best running backs in the league, hands down right now. I think he's finished somewhere, the top 5 maybe? I'm not quite sure. I forgot already. But then the next pick 34, Sam Laporta. Again, he gets crucified. Nobody could believe we were taking a tight end that early. We needed defense. Might be the best pick in the draft. Makes a few other moves, right? Not that any of those moves mattered for this trade, because they don't. But then he went and grabbed Branch, in this draft too, who is like a top 15 DB in the entire league as a rookie. Now, Branch doesn't count for what I'm talking about. So the next move, Brad trades number 168 alongside 122 and 139 and moves up to 96 to grab Broderick Martin. And we know that Broderick Martin has not worked out yet. In all, we traded one guy. And in return, the Lions netted 3 draft picks, which turned into 7 players. 3 draft picks, 7 players. That's insane. And we traded away Matt Stafford's incredible contract. We got Jared Goff, Melifonwu, Jamison Williams, Josh Paschal, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Broderick Martin. For one guy. Totally changed the dynamic of this team forever. Of those 7 players, the Lions have one who is a league leader 2 seasons in a row, Jared Goff. 2 who are rookie league leaders in, I believe, the top 5, Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs. And you have 2 that are up-and-comers, Jamison Williams and Melifonwu. Jury's still out on Josh Paschal. Obviously, we don't know what's happening with Broderick Martin just yet. So after the majority of all the pundits and the national media personalities drenched Holmes in criticism for taking a running back at 12 and a tight end at 34 instead of defense, Brad Holmes has shown everyone that doubted him they were wrong. And it wasn't even close how wrong they were, because he picked the players, to the Lions. He picked the players that the Lions needed at that time. And I also feel like Brad Holmes recognizes that right now offenses are winning Super Bowls. Offenses are winning championships. You can go look at the history books. The number 1 offense is usually winning the Super Bowl, or at least the top 5 offense. You can win a Super Bowl with a top 15 defense. Really need a top 10, but it's been done. In the last 10 years, there's been top 15 defenses that have won. But to think that the Lions traded away a dominant first ballot Hall of Famer and record smashing quarterback in Stafford and completely turned around this franchise. And with that move alone is not only, an improbable result for happening the way that it did, but it took balls. And it took a special level of genius that has not been seen in Detroit ever. And that's the story that I wanted to tell you guys tonight. That these are the 3 main reasons why your team, your Detroit Lions, your brand new Detroit Lions are here. They're very comfortable, as Coach Prime likes to say. They're not getting comfortable. They're very comfortable. And they ain't going nowhere. This team has got such a good core because Brad Holmes builds through the draft. He supplements where he needs to. Yes, he does shop at every dollar store between here and Canada. But you're going to see a change in that dynamic in 2024. Now, this season isn't done yet. I don't think it's done for a while yet. I'll just say that. But I see something on the horizon for 2024 that is totally going to dwarf what we just did. I've said it earlier this season that my guess for 2024, my prediction before this season's even out, is the Lions are 14-3. They are the number one seed in the NFC, and they're winning the Super Bowl this year. Whether that's the 23-24 season or the 24-25 season. I think it's happening. I really do. I think we're a few players away after we get through this draft. We need some good veteran leadership, but we also need some younger guys to step up. If we had another defensive tackle and another defensive end this year and in a better corner, I think we're maybe 2 losses this year. Maybe. Just a couple of players. And I know that's why some people will make that argument. Why didn't we do anything? At the trade deadline. For whatever reason, they just weren't the right fit. And that's okay. I trust what Brad Holmes is doing. And it's hard as we sit back as a fan and we're like, but man, we could have done this. And man, we could have won that game. Well, who knows? Maybe that one person could have totally infected our entire team and we wouldn't have won any more games. And we wouldn't have been in the playoffs. Because clearly we were that close from not making it. So that's a story I wanted to share tonight. Tomorrow is going to be the full breakdown. I'm going to jump into the chat, see what everyone had to say. And C. Klaus 21 says, how much cap space are we going to have after the signing of Amon-Ra this offseason? Parentheses, we better. Look, if Amon-Ra gets this $25 million tag that he's supposed to get, and I don't mean tag like franchise tag or anything, but if he gets $25 million, they'll be able to spread that contract out so where, maybe only $12 million hits the cap, give him a pretty large signing bonus, and then a lot of it hit in the last year, do a couple of void years to kind of make it pain-free for a while. But if that's the case and only 12 or 13 million hits the cap this year, we would probably be sitting around 58 million left after we signed Amon-Ra St. Brown. We should be close to 70 million to start the year. Really close. John Dusage says, I was a big Stafford guy and was still so happy for the trade when it took place. See, I think a lot of people saw the bigger light, what was happening here. And this was a game changer. It was a franchise changer for some of us that saw what was about to happen. Look, I was a huge fan of Matt Stafford too. Always supported the guy, always stuck up for the guy. When everybody said that, it was stat Padford and was, never going to get us anywhere. And, all he did was light up the stat lines and didn't do anything else. And it was all garbage time stats. I didn't believe in any of that. I saw a warrior. I saw a killer on the football field. I saw someone who had an incredible heart, a vocal leader, an incredible philanthropist. I saw an amazing athlete, an amazing person, an amazing father and husband to his wife, Kelly. I mean, he's just a great dude. He never had a full, complete team. If he was on this team, and I'm not doubting Jared Goff because I feel like Jared Goff has got some special qualities about him too. I believe in Jared, as well. But Matt's arm, I feel like he could have done a few extra things with some of these guys. But that doesn't mean I'm rooting for Stafford on Sunday because I'm not at all. Joseph Austin says, Goff has been a revelation, much better than I thought, accurate, on time, and a good leader. Brad knew though. And see, I bet you Brad was just sitting back in his office, doing that evil thing that, you see on movies. Because he's like, you want to give me Jared Goff, the guy that I scouted, the guy that I had you bring in, the guy that I had you draft? You want me to bring him to Detroit? and you're going to take Matt Stafford and give me a couple of first-round picks, where do I sign? He was probably so excited when this deal popped up. Michael McCormick says, great history explanation of our team and our ownership. It's a great time to be a fan of the Detroit Lions. And Stanley Minder says, Dan Campbell has the ability to become the next BB. Must be Bill Belichick. Kevin Williams says, great content, Will. Appreciate it, Kevin. It's all 100% organic. I wrote it all today. And that's why I did this pop-up live today. And I save all the content that I do. I used to write articles. I started rockdownpodcastnetwork.com to write, and there is still articles there. I used to write, and I wanted to write a lot more, but as this took off, I kind of had to pick one or the other. I guess I'm just not as good as some of the other ones out there that can write and, do it all at the same time. If I was smart, I'd probably just write and do what I'm doing right now and talk about it in video form, and I'll get there. It's just been a lot to do all of this pretty much by yourself, and it's a big undertaking. But a lot of things are going to change this year, taking a few steps forward. King SJ says, what's up, Will? I'm pumped for this weekend. Ford Field will be rocking. It's going to be insane. They're handing out pom-poms and those little GPS light things again. So we'll have the rock and light show again, like we did on the Monday night game, which I thought was pretty cool, man. It was a nice touch. They should have done some cool stuff like that for the NFC Championship banner drop, but they didn't. Timothy Klingerman says, to me, Stafford has always been a stud. Yeah, he was. Hopefully he's done being a stud in Detroit, because he can't be this Sunday. And we're going to talk all about that tomorrow. So like I said, I've got some news on Sam Laporta that's a little bit different than what everyone else has been talking about and what they've been putting out the last couple of hours. So I'm going to try to get that video done right now and get it out. I think that you guys are going to want to listen to it. And that's all I can really say, because if I say anything else, I'll give it all away. So anyway, I appreciate you guys joining the pop-up live tonight. You guys are the best sponsors and supporters of this channel. Do us a favor and like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And come and join us tomorrow night. We're going to do a special 2-hour event. It'll be Derek Fields and myself. It is a Rocked On Syndicate Sports mashup collaboration. That's one of the official, I guess, names that we're going to be rolling with. So come see us tomorrow night. And we got something new dropping next week, Tuesday and Thursday. So we've got new content coming even before we're done with the season. We're already going to roll into something new, and we're going to continue it and grow it and build it just like the Lions did, and have some fun with it. So I appreciate all you guys in the chat and making this fun for me. So we'll see y'all tomorrow night. We'll be getting started right around 8:00, maybe a little bit before, but we'll do a 2-hour show tomorrow. Let's have some fun, man. We're less than 72 hours away from game time, and I'm excited. I just got to get some rest so I can be ready to roll. I'm glad it's a night game. I'll put it to you that way. All right. Hope you all stay safe. We got a big blizzard coming, but until next time, go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. Take care. Bye-bye.